We are going to discuss stablecoins and law enforcement today. My name is Alex. I'm Forbes contributor. We also have a media named Coins Telegram First, media about Ton and Telegram ecosystem. And I'm also a documentary film producer. We made a film with Vitalik, with CZ, Justin Sun, like many top crypto people participated. And guys, let's introduce ourselves. So start please, Florian.
Thank you very much. I'm Florian Ducomin. Very glad to be here. Thanks for the invitation. So I'm a tech lawyer. I've been advising tech companies for more than 15 years now. I'm since 2017 advising foundations, exchanges, DEXs, every type of protocol in the industry in Switzerland and abroad. So I'm Swiss lawyer, but with background in IP and structuring project for regulatory reasons, right? So I structured a lot of tokens, a lot of stable coins, and happy to be here.
Very interesting background.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Magnus Jones. I am representing Nordic Blockchain Association here, but I also used to be the Nordic Blockchain and Innovation Leader at EY, Ernst & Young, so started their blockchain department back in 2015, working as a consultant by myself, but also doing a startup on digital identity called Comply Once, together with my co-founder Riders are here. And I'm working very broad when it comes to digital assets, everything from DeFi, DAO Foundation, the startups, to governments on the other side. I'm also part of the Metaverse expert group of Interpol, the counterterrorism group of Crypto for the United Nations, and also a crypto expert for the OSCE. So I also work with the banks and TradFi in the whole range of the ecosystem.
That's great. Hey, I'm Daniel Payne. I'm from the US. I'm a crypto attorney in private practice. This is my first time at Davos. I am excited to see some familiar faces from the roundtable yesterday, which was a lot of fun. I advise early stage crypto and blockchain companies, mainly on the regulatory side. My background is in securities. I spent some time in-house with some blockchain startups, and really interested in the topic today. Excited to be here.
Thank you. I'm Aaron Sanchez. I'm the Director of Industry Engagement at the Mika Crypto Alliance. We are a nonprofit that provides the tools and gives clarity and guidance to how industry can comply today, particularly issuers and exchanges and CASPs. But we also are fortunate to have a deep bench of researchers, so we also are looking with an eye forward. How can we help regulators and bridge that gap between the industry and regulators on how to do more thoughtful regulation? Yeah, excited to be here as well.
And now the person because of whom we are all here gathered together. Alona, please tell us.
Thank you. Well, this panel is especially close to my heart and my day-to-day work, actually, as AML officer, a Swiss AML officer, and the founder of Geve Capital, which is the Swiss licensed exchange and escrow, and we are expanding to the new regulation as well. So thank you very much that you could all come. It's going to be an interesting panel.
Yeah, mostly I see that we have background in Europe, so let's discuss MiCA, which happens this year. And right now we have very interesting situation because Tether, which is the most popular stablecoin, mostly used all around the world, which is not legal in Europe anymore. So what do you think, guys, about stablecoin implementation in Europe, and why should we use USDC, not USDT here?
First of all, to correct you, Tether is 100% legal. There's no illegality connected to Tether.
Not legal as a payment method.
Certain WASPs, CASPs that cannot trade it in terms of commercial activity, but you can keep it, you can store it, you can have it as a custodian, you can use it as private individuals and for other purposes. So Tether is definitely part of the ecosystem, just to clear that part. But your question was regarding Tether or USDC?
Right, but you cannot use USDT as a legal form of payment anymore.
Well, I'll challenge you on that one. You can use it, and you will have to use it also, because there's a matter of liquidity. Right now, that's the stablecoin that has the largest liquidity in the whole wide world. And I can challenge you further. If you see the usage of the ecosystem, we see liners now, shipping cargo liners, skipping that the captain is carrying actually US dollars cash, and they're using then Tether because it's liquidity. And that also happens into European ports. That's per se not illegal. That's my point. I see where you're going in terms of using it and doing it on a trading platform. That's another different part that MiCA restricts, but that's just because they haven't registered. And we're happy to also go down that route of why they haven't registered.
All right, tell us, please, why they didn't register?
Because they don't want 60% of their backing stored in horrible European banks that anyway will take that euro and on the back end side change into US dollars. That's the irony of the whole thing. So of course Tether doesn't put all their treasury into Europe because there's also definitely not a market for them here. That's the easy part. That's why they go to Africa.
Do we have any other points, like any other views on this case?
Well, I think Tether is having a place since the beginning as an innovation company. So they were one of the first stablecoin issued, centralized still, but like one of the first use case. I think one of the reasons why they don't want to come to Europe is that you cannot serve yield on stablecoins under MiCA, right? So basically, one of the reasons their initial play was to take the underlying and generate yield on the underlying. That's the big play. But mostly, and I heard that they were building also their own, chain with validators that could also generate native yield on the token. And I think this is not feasible under the EU regulation right now. So I think that Paolo Ardiano has some plans to expand on the yield. They didn't want to comply with all the heavy regulation in banks, as you said. So I think and also they got pushed from the US. So they had no reason to comply with MiCA at the moment. They got kicked off from several exchanges in Europe, but it's a small portion of the trades that occur on Tether.
And they invested into a Maltese company who's doing a stablecoin, who has a MiCA license, so they can pair it, i.e. they're in there. So don't underestimate these guys, they're smart.
So when do you expect they are going to come legally to be tradable here?
Never, ever. They're not going to do it. Guaranteed 110%. That's why they go in and do Let It Be Light project in Africa instead. It's a much larger market and go in Latin instead. Never going to come in Europe, guaranteed.
Yeah, it's probably a good time to jump in with the American perspective on MiCA and Tether. It's a good point because stablecoin issuers don't just have to worry about one jurisdiction, even a large bloc like the EU. They want to be global issuers and be compliant around the world. They've got to worry about all the different regimes, and they've got to worry about holding reserves in different areas. They've got to balance their risks, and they've got to generate as much yield as they can. The American perspective, just briefly, for a couple of years, was, hey, the EU is beating us. They've figured out MiCA. Hey, they've gotten together. They've got some consensus here. And meanwhile, the Americans were, do we even want a law? How are we going to possibly have some consensus on this? And through some crazy political things that happen in America from time to time, we had some consensus last year and came up with the Genius Act. I think Tether's reaction to the Genius Act as compared to the reaction to MiCA is very instructive. And I mean, we can talk more about Genius Act later, but their plan is to comply. I think it's a totally different regime. So I think different geographies and jurisdictions are going to be competing on stablecoin regulation.
Yeah, just to add a little perspective. I mean, it's interesting to take that into account that Tether has chosen to not operate in Europe. Now, what does that say about Europe as a market? But it's interesting that Magnus brings up that they're trying to go around. And so that's the play that they're going to enter into the market. But when you see how the US is regulating it, and then in the Europe side, we work with a few different. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Can I skip that one?
No, your turn.
I don't think that there is more to add to this particular topic, but I would like to have another kind of line or line of discussion, because the stable coins, with Tether everything is plus minus clear, and now with your explanation is even clearer. But what's going on with stable coins, and for me as AML officer in Switzerland, that's, I think, very interesting to discuss and to listen. And Florian, your opinion, I know, but I think everybody would love to know too.
Yeah, so basically in 2024, Switzerland came up with the stablecoin guideline, right, where they were perceived as anti-stablecoin in a way that their requirement was to trace and avoid any anonymity on the transaction, so be able to trace all the transactions, even from after the issuer to the initial buyer. They had to, like, the requirements from a compliance perspective was to trace further. And this requirement was very badly perceived and positioned, I think, Switzerland in a position where it didn't want to be, just because of in my opinion, a technological mistake of the regulator. Now, we had last year a new report from the Federal Council in Switzerland where they tried to nuance this approach, saying, well, if you are a stablecoin issuer and you can just, blacklist some addresses that are sanctioned, and you can make sure that you can whitelist the address with which the issuer is interacting, then you can still comply with the FATF rules and travel rules, and you can still be compliant. So this is a new approach that is making Switzerland, again, a good place, in my opinion, to issue stablecoin from. Of course, Switzerland is focusing on AML compliance, and not that much on any other topic that the European Union is focusing on. The structuring that I generally propose for stablecoins is using a trust model, because basically you can use a common law trust and have Swiss trustees that hold the underlying asset. That way you're not subject to all the banking problem and regulation of being yourself as a stablecoin issuer subject to a banking regulation, and you're not subject, if there's no redemption claim, subject to Swiss banking regulation. So this is a very elegant and nice way to have the underlying in a trust held by a Swiss trustee with the Swiss branding and issue it on the FINMA compliance. But yes, of course, we need to be able to have an infrastructure that is not a private blockchain like they were requesting before, but have a public blockchain with whitelisting and blacklisting mechanisms and freezing mechanisms and banning mechanisms if you are a Swiss issuer of stablecoin. So this is my take on it. At the moment, it's not a regulated activity to do that still, but it's coming, I suppose, for 2027, where there will be a license for becoming a Swiss stablecoin issuer. It's like a new form of fintech license, if you wish.
I think, not to comment specifically on that one, but just to the clarity point in the audience, because what you talked about is covering certain types of stablecoins. Right now, we're throwing out stablecoins as it's one thing. How many here in the room can name me 2 different types of stablecoins? 3 different? 4? What is behind them? Is it pure fiat dollar? Is it a mix and a bundle of some real world assets? Is it gold? Is it a mix and a bundle? Is it cryptocurrency? Is it synthetic towards a DeFi ecosystem? I could go on. It's totally different things we're talking about in terms of regulation and what we're asking for. We are at the level where we're talking about central bank digital currencies. There's no such thing. Is it wholesale? Is it retail? The same applies for stablecoins. We also lack out on, tokenized bank deposits, which goes underneath the umbrella. So I think it's very important here to distinguish between the different asset classes that we're talking about, and also be very realistic towards the level where we are with stablecoins right now. This is the 6th panel in Davos that I'm talking about stablecoins. I've hosted 2 roundtables myself on stablecoins, and the same thing. It's a very hot topic, but we need to be clear about what we're talking about, because it's the niche elements of the regulation that we need to go into if we are able to make it happen. And I can assure you, the general audience are thinking, oh, when can I go with my stablecoin and buy Coca-Cola at 7-Eleven here? Well, all the banking and financial institutions, they're not covering that area. That's not the focus area. It's back office handling in terms of bank to bank that matters for them of the large quantum of values. So I think that's also a thought we need to have in mind in terms of what we're asking, begging for towards actually the need and the request there. So I think that's why it's very important to have organizations like the MiCA Crypto Alliance who drives policy towards this one on the right areas and is actually able to find and figure out the different attributes of the different tokens, which is the niche to actually understand what we are talking about there. Just to bring, call it, the level of complexity that we're talking about.
And going off that, I mean, that's part of the problem is there's 3 boxes to classify all the tokens, and there are many tokens that blend in between. And so one of the things that we try to do is provide that research so that there is I've been calling it a research Bible. And this, I think, would apply for the US. Like, what is decentralization? How do you measure that? And no one has a quantifiable or measurable way to do that. So you have all these different policy groups fighting about that. And so one of our aims, is to create at least the academic literature so to reference the guidance off. But sometimes these initiatives come at the cost of speed. MiCA made a decision to implement without all the information, and can we move forward from that with the new information and guide MiCA towards a more productive way, if you want to call that.
Can I ask a question? Did anyone see is that okay? Did anyone see David Sachs this morning? Anyone? Can I play it for you real quick? I'd love to get your, specifically Magnus, I'll just play it for you real quick.
Everyone leaves a little bit unhappy, right? But I think what's going to happen is that after market structure passes, the banks are going to get fully into the crypto industry. So we're not going to have a separate banking industry and crypto industry. It's going to be one digital assets industry. And I think
will they be regulated
their opinions are going to evolve over time. And I bet you, over time, the banks like the idea of paying yield because they're going to be in the stablecoin business.
But will they also be regulated the same way? And I guess that's a big, I mean, the banks will say, hey, if they get to do all the same things we do, how come they don't get regulated the same way?
Well, I guess because they're offering slightly different products, right?
Yeah.
So, but I mean, everyone offering the same product should be regulated in the same way, and we want to get to that.
This is hearing Jamie Dimon here for 6 consecutive years saying, I'm not doing this horrible cryptocurrency Bitcoin thing. Let me be very clear, like you said 2 years ago. This is the last bloody time I will comment on this one. We're doing tokenization. That's totally different than another thing that is horrible cryptocurrency thing. And every politician saying, oh, Jamie says that they're doing tokenization, blockchain infrastructure, while we're talking about ERC20 token, and they're laughing all the way on the back end side because they're then allowed to handle it. In the same way as in Norway, when the register office suddenly took and tokenized the register office, the stock shareholder register, put it onto the mainnet of Ethereum for a test pilot, then they're using ERC20 token. They green light that part. We have to understand that part. So when banks talks about this is hearing about the politician saying, I believe in blockchain technology, not crypto. It's the same thing. They will go in on the backside, but you have to say banks are not one thing either. They are niche elements of every bank. That is private banking. It's individuals, totally different things. Is it custodian services? What is it? You have to find the niche areas. And the niche areas is that the banks, they won't control themselves right now. That's why they cannot just use a Tether like we talked about, because that's political exposure. It's hard for them to even use Circle because it's US linked in some matter, and they're also protectionist towards the euro. So in this matter, that's why they're setting up these new consortiums again, euro only, or a bundle and a mix of it. They don't know the direction, but they want to have the control also. So again, we have to see the niches and not use the overall umbrella. That's my view on it. So it's not one-to-one that they will cover all areas of, call it, consumers to business areas of the bank. It will be the back-end structure that will happen quietly, I believe, for 2-3 years without general audience seeing it. at all, but it will grow significantly in value. And then we will find niche products to professional investors. So not a consumer comes screaming in, I lost all my money because Bitcoin dropped 40% yesterday, and don't understanding the complexity.
Can I jump in?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure everybody understands how radical what David Sachs said on there is. So he was saying after the market structure bill is passed, that's the Clarity Act that has been proposed for a long time, but now is actually going through the legislative process. And what we said, Trump said a few minutes ago, he is planning to sign it soon. That's optimistic. But of course, he signed the Genius Act last year, so maybe he knows more about it than I do. What David Sachs is saying, after that market structure bill makes it through Congress and gets signed, we're going to have a peace treaty with the banks and the stablecoin issuers. Right now, they're at war because the banks are terrified of losing their deposits to stablecoins. Because the stablecoin issuers find ways to pay yield. They take the reserves behind the stablecoin and invest it. And then there's yield. And they don't take all of it. They do very well. They keep a lot of it. But they can pay some of it back to encourage this deposit flight out of banks. Banks pay what? A couple pennies on your deposits. Nothing. Essentially zero. You can make much more in stablecoins. I myself keep a lot of my deposits in USDC instead of at the bank for this very reason. It terrifies banks. But what David Sachs is saying, we're going to move past that, and the banks are going to essentially surrender and become stablecoin issuers themselves, and they're going to figure out, let's let everybody pay yield so that the consumers, the retail investors, can enjoy the yield and move between banks and stablecoin issuers. He's talking about the war between the banks and the stablecoin issuers. It's really fascinating. It's happening in real time right here.
Yeah. Speaking about stablecoins adoption, we cannot avoid also CBDCs. And in Europe, Christine Lagarde and Ursula are definitely anti-crypto. Do you think government are going to replace stablecoins and, take action and control all the payments like electronic money and so on?
I can give the example from Norway. The Norwegian Central Bank just before Christmas issued a PR release shutting down all CBDC activity. Don't see a need for an e-Norwegian krone right now. Correctly. They say, we will follow the digital asset market closely. What does this mean? They will go 100% in on stablecoins. So on the 20th of April, there will be a full-day session at the Norwegian Central Bank where they will focus only on stablecoins. And this gives the perspective of where they are in terms of what was mentioned of, call it the FOMO element of privatization of money, based upon what you said about the yield element, and also naturally because they see that there's a certain company called Tether that makes between $16 and $19 billion, being a little bit more than 100 employees, and then they're thinking, what is happening here? That's sort of saying the challenge. But when you say about the traceability element, should we fear CBDCs being monitoring us? No way. We should fear the stable coins because they are being monitored. So the reason for why, call it Tether, is keeping themselves floating and not being imprisoned for 250 years lifetime for all the founders of tax fraud to whatnot that you can look up of any people who has been into crypto since 2014. I'm not saying they're doing anything illicit, but if you reopen it, all of us who has been there, you will find some trades that has not been declared for tax purposes. The thing is, since a stablecoin is actually programmable by nature to seize it, freeze it, call it, burn it, delete it. It's not deleted from the blockchain, but they can seize the asset. When Interpol and others who I represent do operations, then they go in, they seize all the assets. No one is digging down what they had there, and since they're the central bank, they can reissue to the ones who lost it. Then you see politicians on the background like, oh my God, this is the best next thing since sliced bread. Don't shut down these guys. That's sort of saying why the functionality of Tether, stablecoins, and others are extremely important to understand, like I talked about, the attributes, the mechanisms of the token in all sorts of matter, because this is a monitoring tool that is important to understand.
Yeah. We have just 5 minutes left, so guys, please express your opinion.
Oh, and this?
Yeah.
I think, there's so much there. again, I like to take the American perspective. That's what I know the best. I think we will get more clarity as we go. I thought last year was the year of the stablecoin, and yet as we just heard, as we just talked about, once we've got more certainty from the Clarity Act on what's going to happen with the banks and stablecoin issuers going head to head on this, I think we'll get even more clarity this year, and then we'll see where things go on CBDCs. Like with Norway, in the U.S., in the current environment with the current authorities in charge, it's a profanity to say CBDCs. It's not going to happen. And the opposition party, when and if they come back in power, are so anti-crypto, it's hard to imagine they will be able to push it all the way across the finish line unless they feel like it is giving them the kind of control that they desire. But there's a lot of anxiety that there ever could be a CBDC, to the point where they're passing laws in the states that say that's prohibited here.
I just wanted to add, do you think Trump's stablecoin is going to conquer market and take place?
Who knows? I would say his first coin did better than I would have thought. I thought it was essentially a meme coin that would do like most meme coins do. We'll see what happens when he's kind of post-presidency. It's really the root of your question is, how do stable coins compete with each other? It's the same product, right? You would think that they're competing on the risk of their reserves, right? You're betting that when you want to redeem your stable coin, that issuer will be able to give you $1 back if it's a $1 back token. And yet I'm not sure that's what we see. I mean, I don't want to be too biased here. I think Tether's balance sheet is more opaque than other stablecoin issuers, and yet Tether is by and far has the largest market cap. So there must be something else, branding, first mover status, that these stablecoin issuers are competing on. And to that end, Trump's got a big brand, so maybe he'll use it.
Yeah, let's see.
I mean, to a certain extent.
Sorry. Just from the Swiss perspective, then I leave you Lagarde for the end. So basically, from the Swiss perspective, I think the central bank is really at the top of things in terms of testing. They did a lot of projects and POCs. They tried, they reached the same conclusion. CBDC, so state-issued cryptocurrencies, is not something that Switzerland is willing for, mainly for privacy reasons, because the population is not actually ready for it. And I think so. This project of CBDC at the national bank level has been pretty much is pretty much gone. But the wholesale CBDC, as you say, we need to distinguish things when we are lawyers. And wholesale CBDC is a use case that is very interesting. So basically, the way to tokenize the money between the banks and the central bank. And this is a project that is going on, but this is not CBDC in the European Central Bank sense, right? And for me, that doesn't make any sense at the moment to issue this type of CBDC.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like Magnus said, there are ways to have some of the control, but it's still all very new. So I think there will be experimentation, there'll be iterations, just like all of crypto. Every cycle, it's an iteration. We think we're on the cusp of something, of the revolution, but then it's just the next iteration. So I do think we could end up in a place where CBDCs are implemented, or the same functionality that we want, that governments might want from them. But I think that's part of where we come in interpreting and helping fight back or push back, and what is best for industry and bridging that.
Alona, can you connect?
Yes, I love all your theories and thoughts, but from the practical perspective, as someone who's trading it and using it in business and in businesses with other businesses every single day, I can tell you I'm so happy that right now all these thoughts are not in the documents. And we still can use USDT in Switzerland, and hopefully one day we will be somehow understanding MiCA and American law. Well, God save you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.